Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. As-salatu wassalam ala Rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ahlan wa sahlan bikum ikwanina wa akhwatina fi din. Wa salamu ala mani taba huda lil ikhwan ikhwati fi Afrika wa Europa wa Caribbean wa kulli makan. Wa Anjurama, my Fulbe community. And you saw my caption, my dear brothers. This news came about last week when the ECOWAS court made a judgment and stated that they, meaning Niger, should reinstate the former president Bazoum. And this made its circuit around the world. Al Jazeera, Arab news services, African news services, and none had offered many comments in favor of it or denouncing it. They just reported the news. And we have to look at it from another standpoint, brothers and sisters, because his former regime was exposed tremendously. And when we look at this, we have to look at it from a standpoint of how it's going to affect the people of Niger, how it's going to affect the people of the Futafula community in particular, because they have been bearing the brunt of all of the hostilities basically in the Sahel. And let me preface some of this. You know, my last talk I gave, I had a lot of negative comments. And these comments were not right. And they were personal attacks, and then some didn't even look at it. They just wanted to talk and whatnot, because this is the way. And when you pull up their information in YouTube, these accounts are very new. So these were provocateurs, and most likely they were Tuba. And so you got my guarantees, brothers and sisters, that I will not stop. They will do everything they can to stop me from talking, and others like me. And we have to be more cognizant, because we're gonna be really in a bad way if we allow these individuals to stop us from talking. So let's get into it. You know, when we look at the things here, and we look at the former president, he's an Arab, Afro-Arab, if you want to call him that, and Muslim. And he said he had suffered greatly in jail, so to speak, or house arrest, after he was overthrown by our Hausa brothers in the military. And he had worldwide backing that stated that the coup was wrong and they should reinstate our brother here, ex-President Bazoum. But it's funny, the people were in favor of it because they took to the streets in jubilation after he was overthrown. And you know, that made it kind of a situation where it made it kind of tricky, because why? The people were happy because they wanted to see their lives change. And they were not happy with this particular president. And especially since his regime was exposed big time. And it's very, very shameful that we have to look at this dreadful situation here, and Niger has to get it right, because the people are the ones who are suffering the most from the lack of governance. Our brothers in the Futafula community there in Niger, there's some brothers right here, herders. They suffered, my dear brothers and sisters, greatly. They were profiled and they suffered greatly under this former president. And I know our brothers will not be happy to see this man reinstated. And the question we have to ask, dear brothers and sisters, is what's going to happen to the new axis that developed. You remember our three brothers here from Burkina Faso and from Mali. Mali's over to the right, Burkina Faso to the left, and our brother here in the center is the de facto president right now of Niger. You remember what they said when this pact was created in order to prevent an invasion from ECOWAS and its backers. So these three got together and made an accord where they would defend one another, as you heard me talk about this last week and previous weeks. So now, since the ECOWAS court said they have our brother in the center, the president now of Niger, has to reinstate the former president. What is this axis going to do when they say no? And we have to add something else to this. Since those agreements that the ex-president had with the West, which gave approximately between 95% of the wealth to them, and they got very little in exchange. So they're backing it as well. The U.S. said they would back the de facto government of our brother here if they had a tradition going back to the democratic ways and means, which none of us want to see, because we know the democratic ways and means was led to the coup. The democratic ways and means led to what has happened to Niger and all of the Sahel and most of all African states. I don't care if they're in the north, to the central, to the south. The democratic ways and means in its economic systems and apparatus has been killing the African continent and basically killing the world. So now we got a problem on our hands. What are our three brothers going to do? They said they will protect one another. If one is invaded, the other two will be granted airspace and rights to bring their militaries in to defend the brother from invasion. ECOWAS, as you remember, threatened to invade our brother here in the center, who's the de facto president of Niger. Said they were going to invade to take him out and reinstate our brother Bazoum. So now we're going to have some fireworks here. What's going to happen? And what makes this rough is because in Niger, the American forces are sitting there, which makes this a very, very difficult situation. And we have to look at something else. Now, you heard me talk about the dynamics of Niger and the Sahel period, especially as you go from the Sahel corridor, move to the east, when you move to the west, and you have okay, here we go. Yeah, as you see here on the red, you see Burkina Faso, you see Mali. I know this is an Arabic language, but if you know the map of Africa, you know exactly where I'm talking about here. And when you start to move over to the left side, you see there's Mali, and then you go to the far left, there's Mauritania. And then when you move upper left, there's a Maghreb, which you call in English Morocco. And so we have a dilemma on our hands because we have a lot of turmoil and we have a lot of indecisions of what's going on in this corridor right here, which is in the red. So with the decision reached by the ECOWAS, this is going to present a problem. We may have a skirmish on our hands, brothers and sisters, because I don't believe the Axis is going to allow for anybody to invade their brother in Niger, which is to your far right and to right here in the red to your far right. And I don't believe that they're going to allow anybody, I mean anybody, to invade them. So I have the notion, brothers and sisters, that what's going to happen is he's going to be reinstated without any fanfare. And I hate to see this, to be honest with you, because as long as this man is allowed to rule, the Western forces are going to really, really destroy this country. It's already been destroyed. And I hate to see it. And I'm hoping that they don't end up destroying the land any further. And I'm hoping in some ways too, there's no war, because I don't want to see any more bloodshed, because we have lost a lot of people in the Sahel from wanton murder and extrajudicial killings and so forth and so on. So I don't want to see that. Now let's get into this. Okay. The Futafula community has suffered greatly under the former president of Niger. And as you heard me say, the ECOWAS has reinstated him. I'm against it. And I think a lot of people will. This spells trouble for our community. Our community has suffered under this former president big time. Big time. And if you think about, you look at how the people live in Niger, I'm talking about majority of the people, it's not good. With all its mineral wealth, they should be driving, each one should be driving Mercedes-Benz, Bentleys, and other types of expensive cars, plus have a number of homes to boot. But they living as though they're in the 17th century. And even that, many are not, they have to fend for their food because the infrastructure is so torn up that they have to depend from other African countries in order to supply them. This is not right. This is not right. I hate to see this situation as it is, because with the ongoing problems that we have in this region, by reinstating this ex-president, it may be a catalyst now for the Mujahideen to do more. And we don't want to see that. We want to bring peace to this country, but yet we want the right governance as well. And he's not going to bring the right governance. The former president, Bazoum, allowed Western powers to hunt down and kill Fulani herdsmen turned Mujahideen. When the communities, I don't care who you are being killed off, what happens? They take to some means to protect themselves. And this is what happened in Niger. The Tuareg and Arab militias ran roughshod through the Fula communities. They did, brothers and sisters. I mean, big time. And our people suffered greatly. the mineral wealth was taken by Western powers. Niger became, under his watch, under the ex-president Bazoum's watch, it became the #1 nation as the poorest nation in the world under this man's watch. So you think about it. He's not going to do anything different because the Western countries backed him. Why? Because he was giving away the mineral wealth for pennies. And the people were not seeing their share of this wealth. But the cronies of our former president here, they did receive, wealthy, they had wealth beyond means, villas, cars, bank accounts in Europe, probably Switzerland and the Bahamas and the Caymans and so forth and so on. But the rank and file Nigerian did not get anything out of it. So this is going to be a problem. And I'm hoping, brothers and sisters, that there's a peaceful solution to this problem. Let me see our comments here. Got here. Eagle Mind said, wow, if this is true, I'll be very happy. Yes, my dear brother. We have problems. If we reinstate him, what's going to happen to the people? The people has kind of spoken, because once he was removed, what happened? They took to the streets. And you remember, if you look at Al Jazeera, you look at many of the African stations, you look at many of the news services, they show parades. They even had one in the soccer stadium where all the people showed up in support of the coup. And now they're not going to be happy if he's forced into the presidency. What's going to happen to these people who took to the streets? And then you have the military that's been run basically more by the house of people. See, so what's going to happen with that? And how about the ethnic, the loyalties that you have? Because Bazoum is Afro-Arab, and Afro-Arabs have struck an accord with the Afro-Tuaregs. So what's going to happen in this regard? And I'll get into what has happened. And our brother, he said the military coups. Yeah, military coups are very, very rough, because a lot of people usually die. In this situation here, we don't know how many people actually died, maybe some, but it was basically peaceful. They took him out of power and they put him under home arrest, and there were some skirmishes here and there. But a lot of the dictatorships that form out of this, like in Egypt and so forth and so on, are very, very cruel. And it's funny, they overthrow someone and they become more vicious than the previous regime. That's what's funny about when these military coups come, they become more vicious than the previous regime. And he says here, the Fulani community should be Muslim, but African Muslim, not Arabized version of the Islam, and that the mistakes that the Fulani have been doing. Well, yeah, that's a very sensitive topic. The Futafula community is mainly Islamic. They have some that probably are animists and so forth and so on, or some that don't believe at all. They've become modern and they don't believe in anything, or they may say they're Muslim, but in fact, they don't practice Islam at all. And, that's a sensitive issue, because when you become Muslim, you do take on some of the Arab characteristics that is prevalent, because it's part of Islam. But I understand what you're saying. You don't have to be an Arab in order, African Arab, so to speak, in order to be a good Muslim. Yes, we agree to that. But it all depends on how we word that and how we feel about that and so forth and so on. Because yes, you're African Muslim, but we cannot change Islam, because Subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us in Surah number 3 that he's perfected the religion, meaning it's over. You cannot change it. So there's no Arab Islam, there's no Black Islam, there's no American Islam, even though this is happening. We start to see Europe, the European Muslims are starting to develop their own Islamic religion. You see in the subcontinent, you have this problem. You see, especially in the United States, you have now what they call the U.S. Islam. So you're starting to see this. And all of this is what is called bid'ah, and it's kufr, disbelief. Because Subhanahu wa ta'ala made clear in Surah number 3 that he has perfected this religion. It's over. You cannot do anything else to change it. So the Futafula communities had to form militias in order to protect themselves. And their cattle wrestling. See, this is what made us impoverish there in Niger. Because you heard me talk many times, anybody, all of us who are Fulani, we understand that we have gained wealth from the cattle, our cattle. We take milk products, meat products, cheese, there's curded milk, there's a whole slew of things, leather products. There's many things that the Fulani community is noted for, especially the milk and the meat. When you go and you take and steal their cattle, which is happening, especially the groups do, they steal the cattle, they butcher the meat, or they go and sell it and become enriched from it. And under the ex-president, this was so notorious that the Futafula communities had to join militias and form militias in order to protect themselves. Because many ethnic groups were attacking them because they know the Fulani had their wealth. So if they go there and steal 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 cattle, and you go and you sell that meat on the market, especially the cattle wrestlers, they got a good chunk of money from that. And in Niger, this is so prevalent that our brothers began to complain about this, and they had to take to the militias. And then others became mujahideen, fisibilillah, in order to fight. And when they began to take up arms, this president, ex-president Bazoum, then began to use retaliation against them. And these groups were given immunity. Everybody knew who did it, but no one could touch them. The police, everybody just let them go. And what's troubling about this situation too is that you had a lot of the law enforcement being controlled by the Hausa. They are our cousins. And I've said this many times, that the Hausa and the Fulani, if they got together in Niger, they could run and control Niger. And we'll put an end to a lot of this crap. But they still remain divided. Unfortunately, they still remain divided, and that's unfortunate because the Hausa family is our family as well. We're cousins. So we should have banded together to prevent from our communities there from being raided, but they didn't. I'm going to show you something too, that there is our brother here made the comments. He echoed my comments. You saw the marquee, I used his picture. Now, our brother here is Tuareg. I never want anybody to come back and say this is a white-black issue there in Niger. Everybody's black and brown, okay? This is not like a Tubaab versus black man thing, and we have a war behind that. No, this is not the case. You have Fulani people who are black, and you have Tuareg people who are black. These people are all black. These are Fulani. And our brother here said he's Tuareg. See, so it's not a white-black situation. And we have the Afro-Arabs who range in color from black-skinned like our dear brother here to some of the shades like this. And then many of them look like the ex-president here, light brown-skinned. But nobody is Tubaab. So the beef is between basically black African people, not between the Tubaab and black African. That's not the case, brothers and sisters. So don't get that confused. And of course, you see our Hausa brother here. See, so we have many ethnic groups, and this situation here, like I said before, uh, uh, it's going to take on a body of itself. And I don't know what's going to happen here. We're going to see what our president here of Niger is saying now about the ruling of ECOWAS. He has not made a statement yet since last week the ruling was made. And the accord between Burkina Faso and Mali, this group, we don't know what they have said as well. So I don't know what's going to happen in this, but we're going to hear something, and we're going to see how ECOWAS is going to enforce the court's order by saying they're going to reinstate the ex-president Bazoum. So we're going to see what's going to happen with that. Now, here's another issue, brothers and sisters, because I'm going to give it to you straight out. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Under President Bazoum, because of his weak leadership and because of the weak security that he had, we all know the plight of Boko Haram. Okay, we all know this. We know what's happened to them. Not when they first started, but we know what they have become. It was a time under his leadership that Boko Haram was running roughshod, kidnapping, murder, raiding villages, and so forth and so on. Okay, we know that. And they had no answer for it. What happened to Boko Haram, which is very interesting. This is why I said you've been hearing me the last couple of weeks echo the same sentiments about the Jazeera Arab groups who are not Mujahideen, IS, and the AQ. Boko Haram, as you understand, made their bay'ah. Bay'ah meaning their pledge to ISIS. We know that. The former president's security forces had no answer for Boko Haram. But Boko Haram made a mistake when it began to fight the Fulani herdsmen. And our community drove Boko Haram out. If you look at what has happened, the intelligence reports what has happened, Boko Haram was ran out of eastern part of Niger by the Fulani community and the herdsmen and some of the militias. They ran them out. Boko Haram went back into northern Nigeria and had skirmishes again with their brothers, the Fulani herdsmen, their cousins. And so there was killings and skirmishes between the two. This is why I contend, again, when you see this article talking about ex-President Bazoum being reinstated, you read all these articles from the West. It said that he was fighting Al-Qaeda and IS or ISIS groups. Again, lumping the herdsmen into. And now, how can we have the Fulani herdsmen being AQ, okay, in IS, and Boko Haram being IS, and yet they split and start to fight? It doesn't make sense, brothers and sisters. You think about that. They fought, and they're still being fought in northern Nigeria. When they get driven back, they go back to eastern part of Niger, where the Fulani herdsmen are waiting on him again to fight them, and gave them warnings. When they came back, when they sneaked back into certain regions of eastern part of Niger, they gave them X amount of days to clear out. This is why I say, brothers and sisters, every time you see these articles written by some African pundits and also by the Western news services who link me, you, all of us Fulani, we have to be AQ or IS or both. We can never be herdsmen. We have to be only terrorists or only marauding criminals. So that way they can justify to their public who reads about it and say, yeah, you know, Yahya and all these Fulani people, all of them are AQ and IS. It's not the case. the former president armed his citizens. This is what makes this very damaging, brothers and sisters. Why I don't want to see this man back in the power? Because he was exposed. He gave arms to his citizens. And the citizens, again, because they were Afro-Arabs and Tuareg, his community in particular, and some other smaller ethnic groups who had beefs against the Fulani and who were jealous against the Futafula community because of their wealth and cattle. And also because of the centuries-old Messina group. And so now they wanted to settle scores. They had the right president, and their militias ran roughshod, began to murder and steal at will our brothers' cattle. And this ex-president didn't stop there. He turned back around and gave arms to common citizens. Many of them were criminals. And many of these armed citizens began to band together like gangsters there in the United States. They began to call themselves names, and they became bandits, robbers and brigands, and vicious militias under this ex-president's watch. And this ex-president allowed the Americans and others to keep military presence there, who also would kill the Fulani. No, I don't want to see him back into power. This is what I was talking about here. Under his watch, in order for him to justify taking our cattle, so his clans and those citizens who now were malicious, Tuareg, Arabs, and so forth and so on, some Hausa and other groups, he by calling me, you, and all the Fulani terrorists. So he began to give the arms, and here's an article talking about this. It was a shame. And it was a mistake. Because not only did they cause Fulani people to have their cattle stolen and they were robbed and killed, the Fulani began to fight back, brothers and sisters, to the point where the Messina group, who has some people there, begin to come into the fray. And the Fulani begin to get arms, and you know what has happened. As we speak now, in Niger, as we speak, Niger to your right hand over here, you see it in Arabic, but in the red, to your right up here is Niger. It's to the point, brothers and sisters, that the Afro-Arabs and the Tuareg have great portions that they are running, and so do the Fulani herdsmen. The military and the government runs smaller portions of the land, but they're backed by the West. And they're backed by ECOWAS and the AU and so forth and so on. But they say between 60 to 70% of the country is run by Mujahideen groups, either Arabs or Tuareg or Fulani, and some Hausa. That's a problem. So when he comes back into power, I believe they're going to try to unseat him again, and we're going to have a civil war on our hands. Because if this man is allowed to come back, I mean, this is going to be, if I was there, I don't know what I would do. And I know this, that before he was taken out, the people had enough, especially the Fulani people. And the House of Military, they saw what was going on. They had no security in the land. They saw there was mass murder, and their brothers and cousins were talking about the Fulani were being shot, killed, and murdered, and their cattle stolen. See? So now the ECOWAS has spoken. Their court has spoken and said we must reinstate this man. So is he going to return to do this again? Most likely so, in order to stay power. I believe he's going to have many of the Western forces come in to back him, to keep him in power, because they're going to steal our wealth, bauxite in particular, gold and other things too, other minerals. This is going to be one hell of a mess, brothers and sisters. One hell of a mess. Our brother here, he's got a decision to make, because the ECOWAS and the AU punished him and his government. And we start to see them making headway where they were going to give a timetable to bring to democratic rule. We told we don't want to see democratic rule because it doesn't work. We know this. We don't want to see our brother taken out, because he's made headway. He's tried to bring some of the wealth back to the country, and we have people now starting to feel well again. He started to bring more security to the land. And now they're going to get rid of him and put back Bazoum, who's a butcher of the Fulani people. See, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And our brother here said about 1.5 years ago now, he had his cattle stolen. His Futafula community was ravished over and over and over again. They had to form their own militias in order to combat the lawlessness of these guys who I'm talking about here, these brigands and these bandits. The bandits and brigands, we call them in Arabic, we call them muharaba. If anybody knows about this, you heard me talk about the muharaba. The Prophet ﷺ was very harsh with them. And the penalties for them is not jail time, it's death. Anybody who raids villages and the outskirts of town and steal their wealth and kill their kinfolk, we know them as muharaba in Arabic. This is the Sharia word for them, for these type of people, these brigands and these bandits and some of these vicious militias. We call them muharaba because they're hitting people on the outskirts. And the Prophet ﷺ had his remedy. He would cut the hand on one side and one of the foot on the other side, and they were thrown over a cliff or some height of some sort, because they were killing and they destroyed the nation. This is what happened under this ex-president Bazoum, our brother. He armed these citizens to do this stuff and gave them immunity on top of that. See, and he talked about this in an article, which was a very sad article that he wrote, talking about what happened to the Futafula community under this ex-president Bazoum. So we have a right not to want to see our brother here back into power. We don't want to see him no more. I don't want to see him killed either. I don't want to see him tried, but I don't want to see him in power. The best thing for me, when I look at it, is the new regime that's there now, our brother. He should give him, a salary and put him up with guards to protect him. Yes, he did wrong, but he should not be killed for it. Because this is not under the Sharia. We have to show that he had open kufr, because they made mistakes themselves, but we won't get into the Islamic part of it in the Sharia per se. But we don't believe that he should be killed. He should not kill the ex-president and not charge him either, but give him a salary, a presidential salary, guards, wealth, and let him have movement and so forth and so on, where he can move and he can travel and so forth and so on. Not stay under house arrest. This is what I recommend. But I still say too that I don't want to see him murdered, but I don't want to see him in power either. And if he comes back into power, brothers and sisters, okay, if he comes back into power, I'm going to tell you something. We are going to have one heck of a situation there in Niger, because where are we at now? Where are we at? You remember I've been talking weeks, I've been still talking about the same situation here, about why the Islamic State and AQ have no damn business being in the Sahel. And our brothers agree. With President Bazoum back in power and his weak leadership, we're going to have our brothers, the Messina group, enter into this, because we have followers of the Messina group in Niger. And they've been fighting, you heard me say, they've been fighting the Boko Haram and the Islamic State and the AQ. Excuse me. This is proof again when you see all these news services downgrading the Fulani people by saying that all of us are AQ and IS. The herdsmen are not. Because this is paradoxical, brothers and sisters, and I get ready to close here. You see all of this writing and Americans talking, and you see their pundits and their talk shows and their newspapers and magazines, and even YouTube, articles and so forth and so on, videos. And yet, the terror index rated the Fulani herdsmen as the 4th deadliest group on earth. They did not link them to IS, ISIS, and AQ. So wait a minute. So why is everybody keep writing and saying that the Fulani, me, you, all of us who are Fulani, we're all part of the Islamic State. And we're all part of the AQ. But yet the UN Terror Index, or their independent body, who does the rating of quote unquote vicious groups, said that the herdsmen presented a clear and present danger in the Sahel, and he rated them as the 4th deadliest group there. They didn't say they were IS, because IS and AQ are rated much lower now, because the numbers are very small. So how can you see what I'm talking about? You have this conflict. That's why you have to understand our history here. You have to understand what's happening in the Sahel. You got to know the ethnic players and so forth involved in this. And this is proof here that our brothers, the Katab Messina, or I call them Messina group because there's other names for them, and other militias don't like the Islamic State. They don't like Boko Haram, and they've been fighting them. And here's somebody who's brave enough to write the article talking about that. So now I gave you again the proof I've been giving, about this issue about the Fulani people. We're not terrorists. Yes, we got a small percentage that do things. Yes, we have some criminal brigands and bandits who are doing things in northern Nigeria, and some in Niger, and maybe some in Burkina Faso, but they're small numbers. Generally speaking, we are not involved in that, but we are involved in many militias because of what has happened, especially in Niger, because of what has happened to them. And since the government and the security forces will kill them, what are they supposed to do? They have to arm themselves. This is what our brother was saying here. Where's he at here? Where's our brother at here? Yeah, here he is. That's what he said. He said, "What are we supposed to do?" He's not a military man. Our Fuller brother here, he said, "Look, I didn't know what else to do. I got to protect my family and our villages and our cattle because they stole our wealth." And so they got some cattle back. So they began to form militias in order to protect themselves, not to take over Niger, but to protect themselves. And some of the Fuller community are nothing more than herders. They want to protect their own and their small communities. Others are mujahideen. So we have to understand that point. See, and our brother here said, "I'm not here to take over the government. I'm not here to take over the government and this apparatus. I'm only here to protect my cattle and my community." But we have others who said, "No, we're going to fight the government, and we want to take it over." Those are part of the Messina group and so forth and so on. And the same Messina affiliates, okay, said, "Okay, we're going to drive the ISIS out, and we're going to drive the AQ out, And these people have already, our brothers already drove out Boko Haram in the east. You have to understand this, brothers and sisters. The Fulani herdsmen and all the militias fighting to drive out the AQ and ISIS. And they have done a pretty good job. Yes, the ISIS and the AQ have small portions here and there in Niger, but mainly the Afro Tuaregs and the Afro Arabs and the Fulani have great portions of land that they are controlling. Unfortunately, these three still have not got together. If these three groups got together, it'd be all over Niger. They could take Niger and it's over. And it would run the Sharia law. And you heard me talk about the emirate that I believe is going to come out of this in a couple of years from now, I believe, or maybe closer than that. I don't know. So I wanted to get this cleared out and my opposition towards our brother being reinstated back into power. I don't want to see it. Because this type of vicious stuff that he allowed here, he allowed for the groups, he strengthened the Mujahideen groups. He allowed the citizens, he armed the citizens, I should say, and they became bandits and brigands and vicious militias. He's not going to stop at that. He's going to bring in he's probably going to bring back the French. He's going to strengthen the American position there to protect him so he can stay in the power. And they're going to kill and they're going to kill and they're going to kill. And we're going to have a lot of killing going on if this man is pushed back into the office. I said my recommendation, he should not be put back in the office, but retire. Put him in a government mansion, protect him, give him a salary, let him travel, watch him, make sure that he's not forming because he's got Arab clans and Tuareg clans who support him. We got to make sure that he does not try to galvanize them so they can attack the new government and so forth and so on. And what makes this funny about our dear brother here who's crying and screaming about being overthrown, he fought the military before. That's how he came into power. That's funny, isn't it? He came into power because the military, because of the government was not doing what it's supposed to do. He came into power because of that. Now, he didn't do his job. He got overthrown, but yet he screamed and hollered to the world community to save him. Come in there and reinstate him. But he helped to overthrow the former government. He helped to cause a lot of friction in the land before he took power because he fought the government. Paradoxical, isn't it? See? So now what has happened here. You got my take on this. I don't know how you feel about this. You guys can write me and let me know what you think about this situation. What's your recommendation? Should he be reinstated? If you think he should be reinstated, you give me your examples why you think he should. If you feel he should not be, stated. My position, you heard me say, I don't think he should because his baggage is great. And brothers, sisters, look at it this way. The people in Niger have been rated as the poorest nation in the world under this man's watch. It graduated from squalor now to ultra poorness under this man's watch. But all of this material wealth that was going to the French and to the Americans and Russians and everybody else, trillions being lost because of this man. I don't want to see him back in the power. I just don't want to see him back in the power no more. No one's questioned his Islam. It's not for me to question. Our scholars on the ground will deal with his actions and inactions and what he did. Did he perform open kufr? Because none of us know, because we have no reports. We don't know what he was doing in his castle. Was he praying? We don't know. We don't know what he was doing. So, but his issue about his Islam, I'm not touching it because I don't have no knowledge about what he was doing and what he was not doing. We have scholars on the ground who will make this determination, perhaps, maybe they've already made a determination. I have not found anything from any scholars, and this is why you heard me speak a couple of weeks ago. I'm upset about, what is happening, because the thing was happening in Palestine. We understand that. It's dreadful. None of us, we're human beings. We don't want to see children blasted and killed the way they've been killed. Killed 20,000 of our brothers and sisters there in Palestine. Nobody wants to see that. But the thing that I'm kind of upset about is that we have, round table of many of our best scholars, okay, who are Arab, who have been taken to the airways now, giving fatwas and talking in defense of Gaza. But we don't have that in the Sahel. This is what I say, okay, they want us to pour our heart out for what's going on in Jazeera Arab, and we should. These are our brothers, and this is the children, our brothers and sisters' children who are being slaughtered. We should. But where is their sympathy for us? This is what I've argued the last couple of weeks. Where is the sympathy coming from our brothers, the Afro-Arabs? We don't have it. Where are our Afro-Arab scholars talking in behalf or trying to quell the situation in the Sahel? We don't have that. How many fatwas have they entered into about what's going on in the Sahel and who is right and wrong? We don't get it from them. They only talk about what's going on in Jazeera Arab. This is not fair. This is not fair. But that's another story in itself. You heard my complaint about that. So let me see what our brothers and sisters here have to say. Oh, assalamu alaikum, my dear sister. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear sister, thank you for showing up and here. And we got here, yes, we need this. Yes, we need this. You know, brothers and sisters, we should, I don't care who is in trouble. I don't care if it's Jazeera, I don't care if it's in the Sahel. We should be praying for all the Muslims because we're suffering everywhere today. Sometimes I saw pictures from the Arab news services, and it almost brings you to tears when you see a child, and I see this man who lost his children and family, or I've seen this mother lost her child, who's lost, his head was blown off because of bombs. I mean, that's something, and we have to, we're human beings, and what's happening there, it's beyond, and I want to talk about something in the future about this, what I envision and I'm hoping to see on the African continent. Oh, here we go. Yes. You see, brothers and sisters, this is what's happened here. Let me get out of this. Okay. Yeah, see, my enemies get into the computer and then they turn things around. I don't want to see, I want to see us do more on the African continent. And I have my theories about this, and perhaps I may give you a talk about, and I want you to see if you agree with me or disagree with me. I'm going to talk about this issue because I want to see the African continent be more pertinent about some things. I don't want to give you what I'm thinking, but I want to talk about that. Our brother here is saying, you're right, the so-called Islamic State have nothing to do with us. That's true. The Fulani are not the problem. The Fulani are people, our own people, and pure Arabs, so we should not follow the Tubab Arabs. Yes, we have to understand, we have our, not all of the Arabs are wrong, because there's some portions of the culture of Islam we've adopted certain things of the Arabs. There's nothing wrong with that, but you should not give away your identity. If you are a Gambian or you from the Sahel, you should be what you are and be proud of that. Yes, you speak Arabic language. Nothing wrong with that, because remember, some brothers and sisters, Arabic language is not a Tubab language. It's an African language. That's right. So remember that. So you speak that. Just don't think, that it's a European language. It's an African language. It's an African dialect. Okay. So don't misunderstand that. So you speak that doesn't mean that you're a Tubab or you are Arab, because the Prophet Islam made it clear about people who are Arab if you speak the language. So the man in Senegal who's speaking it, he's that. This is not arranged by color. Okay. So we should understand that. But I understand what our brothers are saying here, because we have in the United States also, they're fighting about African Americans who have basically have taken away from their being African American and now became Arab. You understand? So they're fighting that over there and said, hey, you shouldn't do that. You don't have to be this way. You're still black. Yes, you speak the language, you learn the Quranic Arabic and so forth, but you don't have to be Arab because of the culture and so forth, because the Africans we have our own culture. I understand that. I'm black, man. Okay, I'm Fulani, but I live in Al-Maghrib, which is an Amazigh state. And we speak language, that's our first language here. See, so, and we must be careful, we must keep our identity, but main thing, brothers and sisters, we're Muslims first. Always remember that. No, brother, he should not be reinstated. He is evil. Yes, I agree with you. Boy, I mean, what we have uncovered about this former president, I mean, it's mind-boggling, okay? It's mind-boggling that what he has done to his country. He made it, Niger was already poor, but he's now made it the number one. He made it before he was thrown out, the number one poorest country in the world. How can that be? How can that be? And I'll never forget this YouTube tape I saw. It angered me so much. I saw this one official from France who's living like he's a god there in some portions of Niger under ex-President Bazoum. He was walking down the street with his fat stomach, barking out orders, and he was using Bazoum's military and security forces as his own private police force. He was clearing out coffee shops. When he come in, he cleared out like he was a king. All this under the watch of the ex-president. See, so, and I don't want to see that happen again. And they were taking the wealth and so forth and so on. And and our brother said here, yes, Arab is African. That's what I mean. The prophet is from us. Yes, I don't see him as a foreigner, but he is from us. Brothers and sisters, I may want to do something on this too, again, talking about the family of the prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, because it's very interesting. I know some will say, well, why you want to talk about this, about color and so forth and so on? Well, it was driven down our throats as well. You think about that. Because in modern times, everything was made white. When we talked about Andalus and invasion of Andalus, even though we had Europeans who described the Muslims who went in Andalus, he described it as being pitch black. We still have people now writing that the Mujahideen, the Moors who came into Andalus were pencil neck white men. And they've made all of the Sahaba and everybody as white. I may want to touch this issue because we have a lot of scholarship in this issue now. And we have one famous man who was near at that time, second generation, okay, who was present in that region. And he wrote about this issue. And I may want to get into that, but I got to pray to Subhanahu wa ta'ala to see if it's just or not. Should I do it or not? Or it's a waste of time to talk about this? I need that approval from Subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you guys want to chime in on it, you think I should talk about it, and you'd let me, you guys can write me. As a matter of fact, I should give you my my email where you guys can you can get a hold of me here. Yeah, let me get it here. Let me write it here. Yeah, okay. At gmail.com. Okay, yeah. And you guys can write me there. If you have any personal things that you want to discuss and whatnot, you guys can write me and whatnot here at Shabaka Sunyani, Gmail. And you guys can write me what you thought, with your thoughts about issues like this. And if there's topics that you want me to broach, you can write me and say, hey, can you touch on this? Because I want to understand this. And write me and I will answer everybody. I will get to any question that is asked. Now, I will preface this by saying, brothers and sisters, I'm an elder, okay? So I should be respected because I'm respecting you, But I've had last couple of days, I've had some who I believe are Tubab and maybe Tubab sympathizers who have been very vicious in some of their writings. They didn't give me anything scientific. They didn't give me no proof about their facts. Only thing they wanted to do was attack me. See, and one even said that he was from Mali, and he said that I degraded Mali so bad. And I asked him, said, did you look at my program? I said, isn't it a Messina group from Mali? You see? So what is he talking about? You know, and this is what, you know, so write me, brothers, sisters, and be prudent and just write me. But if you have a complaint, do it, brothers, and bring me the proof. No problem. But just be respectful as I'm respectful with you. Now, again, that's my email, so you guys can see this. And I appreciate any feedback and any topics that you want me to talk about that you feel is important to you. I will look at that, weigh it, get back to you, and so forth, do research on it, and you know, and go on from there. So, brothers, sisters, I'm about close to closing here. So again, our brother has been reinstated, or they were urged to reinstate. The Nigerian new government ordered to reinstate our brother Bazoum into the presidency again. I don't know how they're going to do it, how they're going to force the court order. I'm curious to see how they're going to do this myself, because the corridor the corridor brothers here of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, it said they're going to back to play of one another. So they are not basically following anything that ECOWAS is dishing out, because they know it's Western backed. They understand that. And we also know too that the president of Nigeria had made a comment about he was on the phone with the Americans before he's about ready to attack. And I wish he wouldn't have said that, because it goes to show you that the Americans wield a considerable influence in ECOWAS. And anytime you have a disbeliever doing this, you're in bad shape, because you know what Subhanahu wa Ta'ala feels about that. And we have many things. I've had many classes on this. In particular, you know, Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has made it clear about the meddling and some of the stuff of the disbelievers and so forth and so on, and their things. Surah 5, verse 51. There's a proofs right there, brothers and sisters. I just labeled here. Here's a proof here about what Subhanahu wa Ta'ala said about the Muslims who side with the disbelievers and whatnot. And this is a part of a naqada, the Nawaqid of Islam, which is number 8, which disqualify you in Islam and whatnot and so forth. But I've already given a class about the Nawaqid. There's 10 of Nawaqids, but this is a verse. You know, I said Sarah. I think it changed. Excuse me, brothers and sisters. It's Surah. That's what I mean, and not Sarah. But it looked like the automatic thing changed it to Sarah. But it's Surah 5, verse 51 that gives you the indications there about that. And my email again. And I don't know what our 3 brothers here is going to say about this. And I'm not sure how they're going to handle this, but I believe that they're going to prepare for war. They're not going to allow for the ECOWAS or anybody else to come in now to Niger and take our brother out and reinstall the ex-president. I believe it's not going to happen. And if they do try to do it, we're going to have a big battle on our hand, because they don't want to see him in power. The Fulani don't want to see him in power. Nobody wants to see him back in power except those who profit from his rule, mainly his clans of the Arabs and the Tuareg. They were enriched by his presidency, and they even started to develop a caste system inside Niger as well. If you were Arab and Tuareg, you were a higher class. You Fulani, Hausa, you were lower class. So we had this type of stuff going on, and he was the first Arab to be president of Niger, and he gave a bad representation of that. Our Tuareg brother here talked about the president. He talked about the militias and whatnot who were going after the Futafula community. So these are true statements. He was trying to bring peace. He met with many of the Fulani and staff leaders and stuff like this to try to stop, to bring peace. So not everybody of who's Tuareg. And again, brothers and sisters, you see him, he's very black, right? He's Tuareg. So we're not talking about a real black-white issue. And don't get it confused, as you heard me say earlier, because this is not a two-bob white American type fighting black folk. This is black people and brown people who have disagreements and so forth and so on. This is not a two-bob situation in the sense of color. Yes, the two-bob is involved in the background, but the dynamics I want you to see, because this brother here is Tuareg. He's a mayor of a city and he's Tuareg. But look at him, he's black. See, so the dynamics, as you heard me say, you need a play card in order to understand the dynamics there in the Sahel, because it's so rich. And even Sudan, you heard me talk about, you have a light-skinned person, he's not Arab. You have one who's called a blue black or green black, he speaks Arabic, he is Arab. You see, you have all of these type of dynamics in the Sahel region, why it makes it so difficult, brothers and sisters, to understand it. Until you start to study it, is very comical in a lot of ways. So you heard me talk about this, brothers and sisters, and again, just be mindful of this. Keep abreast what's going on. When I get news, I'll bring it to you. I'll give you my synopsis of this and whatnot and so on. And we're hoping this man does not come back into power, because we'll see this again, arming to fight terrorists. Very interesting. Boy, did they fight terrorists? Yes. Oh man, they really did. He armed those people and they became bandits and brigands. And they start robbing and killing our people and stealing our cattle. On top of that, boy, I tell you, it was under his watch. It was nasty. Our Fulani herdsmen like this were being killed off, cattle stolen, and many of them were jailed. Many of them disappeared, and they were being attacked by the government forces, by the militias, by the brigands, by the criminals, by the Americans, and by the French. So our community have no other choice but to take arms in order to fight. See, so we have an excuse to fight in Niger because we've been killed in our cattle. You have a right as a human being to protect your family and protect your cattle. You have that right. You cannot say. And now I don't know what's going to happen to our Niger brothers and sisters who what can I say? They were in jubilation when the coup take place, because they feel that their life was going to improve. And we've heard that the life has begun to steadily improve in Niger under our brother here, and he was making a lot of changes to bring the wealth back to the family in Niger. And now the ECOWAS has spoken and said that no, we want you out. We want you to restate your brother to come back in. And I believe the people are going to be very upset. So my dear brothers and sisters, that's all I got for you today. And again, if you like my talks, please subscribe. If you like hit that like button there, I always say. And if you need to get a hold of me or something like this, again, and you want to write something, or you got a comment, if you have something that you want me to talk about, write me, please. And it's no problem. I have no problem with that. And you can write me. And this is, no problem with me with that. I will get back to you as quick as I can and whatnot. And I'm hoping that everybody, is safe. And please be careful. And our brother here wrote here, "What's up? Everything's good. Have you back. Please keep doing good work." Thank you, my dear brother. Thank you for the encouragement. I try to do my best. And we can only hope that we have peace in the Sahel, because we all want this. And hopefully, inshallah ta'ala, the subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant us peace, and we won't have war on their hands. And our brother here said, and I will close, moreover, the Western meat industry are bribing African corrupt leaders to chase and harass. You have the full beast so that they don't sell their own cow. Yes, brothers and sisters, thank you, my dear brother, for saying this. This is true. What he just said here is true. This is why I try to tell you, when everybody gets mad at the Futafula across the Sahel and say, well, why are they fighting? Why are they joining militias? Why the Messina group now is activated to fight? This is some of the reason why. See, so and you think about it, the Western meat industry, they poison the cattle by shooting them up full of hormones. See, our meat coming from our brothers, the Fulani brothers, is grazed off the savannah. The Western meat is they'll take our cattle and shoot them full of hormones and kill it, and the meat is poisoned and the milk is poisoned in order for the cattle to produce a lot of meat and produce a lot of milk. And he's got it right here. So this is another avenue why the Fulani are in jihad, because we're being maligned and our way of life is being compromised, and we have to do something to protect our way of life as well when no one else wants to protect us. And this, our brother here spoke well about this. Thank you, my dear brother, for sharing that with us here today. So, okay, my dear brothers and sisters, I will stop here and until the next time, inshallah ta'ala. And I'm hoping that you stay safe, my brothers and sisters, please. If you like, subscribe, hit the like button, pass the tape along to other brothers and sisters, irrespective if you Fulani or Hausa. I don't care if you Tiv, I don't care if you Mandinka or whatever, because we're all Africans and we are, we're all suffering on this continent. And so I'm hoping subhanahu wa ta'ala protects us. So I'll leave you with this. Assalamu alaikum. Rahmatullah barakatuh. Anjurama.